it seems to me in the Messianic Jewish community, the emphasis is on being religiously Jewish, because being racially Jewish, I mean, we already have Hebrew Christians. That doesn't satisfy them. They don't want there just to be Hebrews who are saved. They want them to be in synagogues, Messianic synagogues. They want them to maintain Jewish religious practices. And yet the religious practices they want to follow are not the practices of biblical true Judaism. Because, of course, keeping the Torah means offering animal sacrifices. It means having a Levitical priesthood. It means making pilgrimages 3 times a year to Jerusalem. And, frankly, Messianic Jews don't do that and don't believe they need to. They acknowledge that there are 613 laws in the Torah, but they know that they can't keep more than half of them, because more than half of them have to do with the temple sacrifice system. And so they're satisfied to keep the less than half of those laws and say, well, what can you do? We'll just keep those laws because we can. It doesn't seem to occur to them that maybe the reason that the temple was destroyed in the providence of God and has been kept out of the picture for 2,000 years is because the system and the law of which it was a part have been replaced by a new covenant. It's not something that they really understand that way. And, you know, the practices they have, the wearing of yarmulkes and the prayer shawls and the various things they do, blowing the shofar and you know, carrying the Torah scrolls through the synagogue and things like that, which are part of their ceremony. Those ceremonies were never part of biblical Judaism at all. Those are ceremonies that were developed after the destruction of Jerusalem at a Jewish council of Jabna, where the rabbis got together to decide, now that we don't have a temple, how do we be Jewish in our religion? And they came up with what we call rabbinism, rabbinic Judaism, or Talmudism, that religion of the Talmud. And it's from these man-made customs that the Messianic synagogue has adopted much of its practices. They're not specifically biblical Judaism. I mean, what is biblical Judaism is temple Judaism, and they don't have that now, and they know they don't have that now. Some of them, there are some people who think that there will be a temple again, and that they will offer sacrifices again, but that isn't happening now, and therefore following the law of Moses is not even possible. Now, let me read you something here. This is from a website of the Union of Messianic Jewish Congregations. They said, quote, most Messianic Jews are much more zealous for the law, Torah, than their Gentile Christian counterparts. In this, they are following the example of the first century Messianic Jews. Now, this is not true. The first century Messianic Jews went to the temple until it was destroyed. They were zealous for the law. Paul, when he came to Jerusalem, James said, we have many brethren here who are zealous for the law. It's true. Jewish Christians living in Jerusalem, where the temple was, still kept a lot of the Jewish law, along with their being Christian. But after the temple was destroyed, they didn't. And a Messianic Jew today is not zealous for the law in the way that the Messianic Jews in the first century were, because they can't be. There's no temple there for them. Stan Telkin, a Jewish Christian who doesn't call himself a Messianic Jew, he wrote, are these statements accurate? Consider the Torah contains 613 commandments from God that are binding upon the Jewish people. Do those who attend Messianic synagogues even know these 613 commandments? And if they do not know them, how can they zealously keep them? What they seem to be zealous for is the word Torah and the emotional coloring of carrying the Torah scrolls around the synagogue during the service. That's their zeal for the law. They can't be keeping the law. Even Arnold Fruchtenbaum, who does have a synagogue, Messianic synagogue, he says, do we approach the Day of Atonement exactly as outlined in Leviticus 16? He says, not at all. Because no temple has existed since AD 70, no altar is present, and the priests of Levi cannot minister. So, I mean, they admit we can't keep the Day of Atonement in the way the Bible says. That you can't keep any of the festivals the way the Bible says, because they did require animal sacrifices. And so when these people say we should be keeping the Jewish festivals, in what way? They will do it the way the rabbis came up with at Javna. In the rabbinic Judaism, which was not practiced by Jesus, was not practiced by the apostles, was not practiced by any Torah-observant Jews prior to 70 AD. What they practice, including all the Passover things they do, are really the rabbinic practices. And so it's not really a zeal for the law of God at all.